manage just north of $2 billion in India, across 30 odd families that we manage.
Munish is the founder and CEO of Serving Family Office and Advisors with leadership experience at organizations like ABN AMRO and Waterfield Advisors. With over 20 years of experience in the family office management, he has advised over 100 families.
I do in fact have 100 crores. So I would really like for you to manage or advise me on it.
How much money out of 100 crores would you need every year just running your lifestyle?
20?
That's too much. So let's assume 5 crores a year. Let's take 6 years of planning for you. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
30 crores?
Yes.
So if I put this in a pool of capital and give it to you, now this I'll put in a...
What are some of the secrets about ultra high net worth
That's
investors
required.
the rest of us don't know?
So the biggest secret these ultra high net worths have is
A poor person plans for a day, a middle class person plans for a year, but a rich person thinks generationally.
you actually plan 2 generations in advance. The kid is not born yet.
So Munish, how much money do you invest for your clients?
We manage just north of $2 billion in India
Okay.
and across 30 odd families that we manage in India as of now.
All right. And what type of clients are these? Because if you say upwards of $2 billion and only 30 families, we're talking about extremely affluent, very wealthy families.
Largest number of clients are from the family business owners space.
Okay.
And yes, they're rich because by the time they reach the second and third generation, unless you have really done something wrong with the business, you would have made a lot of money, right?
Right.
But it's now that the younger generation is coming in, they're taking money out of the company as well because they want to diversify. Yes, with a sprinkling of certain celebrities as well, always keeps us happy to meet them as well. But I think our idea is that any ultra high net worth, wherever is a source of income, we should be able to advise those clients.
Right. One thing that, interests lay people like me and possibly a lot of us listening to this is, who are these people that are getting your services? Is it, film stars? Is it cricketers? Is it industrialists?
So it's a wide variety, but I think I can easily guess around 80 to 90% of our clientele are family business owners.
Okay.
First gen, second gen, third, and even fourth, sometimes 4 generations in our family who take use of our services. But right from a 91-year-old, 92-year-old gentleman, right down to a 21-year-old who's just handling the family office now. A wide variety of demographics and across India, not just the metros. I think that's very important.
Okay. And so age-wise, it's not that there's one specific generation that veers towards you. You get them from everywhere.
Yeah. And sometimes you are that common factor which also links all these generations together. So I think
Because there must be all those dynamics that they have to deal with.
a lot of them.
And so you are managing a whole lot more than just the money then.
Yeah, so I wish we were more trained in being psychiatrist or psychoanalyst in that space. But I think that's essential because wealth doesn't get destroyed because of markets. Wealth gets destroyed, especially for family business owners, because of family conflicts.
Right.
So I think that's the crux of this, the fears of these rich people as well.
So just circling back to the question about, let me frame it in another way. How much money do I need to have my family to come to you and for you to take me seriously?
So this was a bit of a question we asked ourselves. But when we were setting up the firm 4 years back, so all of us were working together, have been working together for 10 years, earlier with a different firm, then we broke away, set up our own firm, and we wanted to be a pure advisor. And that's the reason Servin got set up initially. So thinking, what should be our minimum? So actually, because we are a retainer-based entity, we are not a distribution, sales commission-based entity. So you have to work backwards. How much is the minimum fee that I want to earn with a client? And then you calculate the percentage basis points of what will impact the performance of that particular kitty that is given to us. So hypothetically, if I charge, say, 0.5% for my services, then for a 100 crore portfolio, it's 0.5%. For a 50 crore portfolio, is 1%. Doesn't make sense, right? 1% is that inherent private banking kind of earnings that you need to have. So I think we had to work backwards to see that, 100 crores makes sense for us because then we're not denting the returns a bit for the client as well. And we have a minimum also taken care of. Because do remember, managing a 100 crore portfolio or 200 crore portfolio, effort may be the same.
Right.
It's just instead of cutting out a 1 crore check, you may be cutting a 2 crore check.
Yeah.
So effort is the same, but you have to make sure that the minimum effort costing is done for our client. So we've gone through that phases. I think 10 years is a long period that we've been managing families. So we've realized what is that sweet spot and all that. Hopefully we believe Indians should pay a bit more because once they realize what their distributors are making, I think then they sit back and relax. But many people don't even know how much they are making. So I think it's work in progress of how do we charge.
Okay.
But 100 crores would be ideal for a minimum today.
So Munish, I want to talk a little bit about the relationship that HNIs or UHNIs have with money. How do they think about money differently compared to just the regular person? And also, do we see any particular trends or traits that are specific to them? Or is every family or high net worth person different from each other?
I think very pertinent point there. See, the money is the cause of all sadness, happiness, joy, conflict, for everything. The reason a family office exists because there's money, right? So hence everybody has a very strong relationship to money. Now, there are many reports which talk about how ultra high net worths are thinking about money, how ultra high net worths have been investing, or how have they been protecting the money. But frankly, that's a wrong report, because every family has a very different thought process about money. Even inside a family, a brother and sister may behave very differently with money. Give a brother and sister 100 crores that this is your wealth and this is your wealth. You'll see very different nuances coming around. So I think relationship money depends on how are their brains tuned to the comfort of having money. Suddenly when sometimes money comes in, it just pulls the person back. Oh no, I have a responsibility of 100 crores and to give to my next generation. With my kids they're 12 years old, 5 years they'll go to US to study. How do I safeguard my money? Suddenly they go into a tizzy of saying protect. Whereas one other family member might say, 100 crores, my kid is going to 6 years, after 6 years going to study. I have 6 years to grow it as much as possible. And you know what, let me grow as much as possible. I know the fees, but some of the money may not be required for 20 years. So you approach it very differently. Either you approach it through fear, or you approach it through opportunity, or you approach it through, okay, I have 100 crores now. Now I know everybody will come to me to put in money into their, startup business or something like that. How do I make sure that I keep all these people away? So there's a mix of multiple feelings they have. But very importantly, we've seen two broad trends, right?
Okay.
When I talked about fear. So a lot of people said, look, I have 100 crores. Yes, I don't want to touch this 100 crores, right? Can I keep it safe? Only from the earnings of the 100 crores, I will do my expenditure.
We skim off the top, take out the returns.
Right? And this is very prevalent, especially when you suddenly got in wealth, right? Second,
because I don't want to be the one who destroys it.
Nobody should say, your dad gave you money and you literally fooled yourself into destroying your wealth just in one generation, right? At least you remain in one more generation. And diagrammatically opposite, there are people who said, okay, I've got 100 crores. Let's put a plan in action. Let's diversify that money into different needs and asset classes, etc., etc. Let's have a proper plan in place. And if you have a plan, I'm sure I'm going to do well. The confidence comes in that. So you behave very differently. Also, I think money, to a certain extent, also is a social identifier, right? Is how much money do they have?
Yeah.
A lot of ultra high net worths are very fearful about letting the market know how much actual they have. Because if they have too large a money, safety and security becomes an issue.
Right.
So they suddenly become very, security conscious about their kids. If they start having security people around the house, we have families where we have taken PSOs, personal security officers, when they are visiting Vienna or Austria.
Oh, okay.
That kind of safety security. Or people with 100 crores who are saying, you know what, all my friends are at 1,000 crore worth. I'm 100. Let me not tell them I'm 100 crores. Because your social identifier is amount of wealth you have. So you will not tell them I'm worth 100, but you want to be in the same group as a 1,000 crore club, but there is a social pressure on you to grow that wealth. You end up realizing they are taking more risk with that 100 crores because they want to reach that 1,000 crore slab. So everybody is wired very differently, and it brings out a lot of positive, negative fears, too much risk taking. People think ultra high net worths just splurge money. They don't actually.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, because you assume that they are splurging. Even if they buy a Maybach for 3-4 crores, right? If they're a 1,000 crore family, a 1,000 crore financial asset, that's financial assets. They may be having some real estate or some promoter holdings which might be worth 5,000 crores. Suddenly that 3 crore car doesn't look, or even 3 crore cars doesn't look that much. But it's just that it's visible.
So they say, this reminds me that there's this saying, don't quote me on this, but I don't know exactly where it comes from, that, a poor person plans for a day, a middle class person maybe plans for a year, but a rich person thinks generationally. Have you seen that this is true in life?
If you actually meet some of these old family offices in Europe, what they're doing today was planned almost 40, 50 years back. Now, they don't plan, I'll be investing in this particular product, but who all will be there in the family, what are the family, buckets which are there, what kind of asset allocation they will slowly move towards, because they're selling off their businesses, they are no longer managing any business, or they're managing now 100 businesses. So actually they planned that stuff 30, 40, 50 years back. So with the retail people, because, their saving ability is a bit less. I mean, how much can you save from a 1 lakh paycheck? Yes, you should save 10,000 rupees in SIP, but again, if you have no job for 6 months, what happens to you? So actually, they're living on month to month and planning for month to month as well. So retail guy is too busy in just making sure that agar kal job nahi hai, so what will I do? At least for 3-4 months, I can run with my salary and get any job possible under the sun. I will not be choosy. When families think, they have a business in most cases, or they may be a serial entrepreneur in some cases. Especially if you're a family business owner, you plan who all are coming into the business. Anybody who's coming to the business will be paid a salary. They may have some shareholdings as well. So you bifurcate that family wealth into different buckets as your next generation is coming in. So you actually plan 2 generations in advance. They set up trusts for 2 generations down. And some are unnamed trust. The kid is not born yet.
Oh, okay.
So you're going that long. The kid of so-and-so, the trust is for the kid of so-and-so.
So it's not just 1 generation forward, it's 2 generations forward for kids who are not yet born
yet.
To be taken care of for their whole life.
Exactly. So we know that today US education will cost you, 3 or 4 years, will cost you somewhere in the range of, let's take 5 crores, hypothetically, right?
Yeah.
20 years down the line or 30 years down the line, it might cost you 40 crores or 30 crores, whatever that inflation number comes out to be. Then you're planning for that. Once your kid comes in, yes, they may take a decision not to go overseas, but if you have to provide for that, the granddads will say or grandmoms will say, can I put aside some money that when the kid is born and for the next 20 years we're investing in an equity pool. So it's a very broad, very long-term view they are taking to a family because they have a secured family business.
Good.
But for salaried people, it's just a salary. Right? Something happens to the economy.
Dip into your emergency fund. Hopefully you have that.
Hopefully. Yeah.
I think, Munish, let's talk a little bit more about some of the tactical questions about how money is actually allocated. And before we get into that, it's very common or fashionable these days to say, oh, just put your money in an index fund.
Yeah.
Right now, anyone can do that. It's not complicated. It's not time consuming.
Yeah.
But of course, that's not all that you would do. So if someone comes to you with 100 crores, you're not going to say, oh, we're going to buy, this index fund. It's going to be a much more detailed, involved process. So let's talk a little bit about that. What you do with a pool of money, how you would allocate it, and for what reasons. In fact, I've been keeping it a secret that I do in fact have 100 crores. And so I would really like for you to manage or advise me on it. And I've kept that money very close to my heart all this while. And I'm entrusting it with you now.
Okay. You should have told me earlier, we should have cut everything down and just started managing your money, right? But good. Since you've handed over something which is so close to your heart and so important to your family, how would generally people manage it? And I'll give you the whole process of managing. And you are integral part of the process, right? It's not my decision only. How much money out of 100 crores would you need every year for just running your lifestyle?
Let's say 20.
20 crores a year? Yeah. That's too much.
I have a lavish lifestyle. But maybe I think I can cut it down to 10.
Yeah. There is something called discretionary spending and there is something called normal lifestyle investing.
Okay.
Discretionary might be buying a car. You don't buy a car every year, right? You will buy a car after 3-4 years. You don't change your house as well. You take 4-5 holidays in a year, what I know of, right? So you'll have those discretionary spendings, but these are all more lifestyle and almost fixed.
Okay.
You have to differentiate your costs. Your costs are which are annual in nature and your costs which are more maybe every 3, 4, 5 years.
Good.
If you said 20, I would assume your natural figure, and this we can do an exercise with you, is say hypothetically 5 crores a year, just for collection purposes, right? Now, you need to invest in a way, and the way families look at it is, look, first I need to safeguard my lifestyle, because that's very important for them, right? Because that's their social image. That's the circle they move around it. Their kids go to a certain school or a college, and they are known by the family they're coming from. So let's assume that you want to safeguard your life for the next 5 years.
Okay.
Right? Usually we'll add inflation to it. So 5 crores first year, so 5.5 crores next year, because lifestyle inflation will be somewhere in the range of 3-4% higher than CPI.
Okay.
So assume a long-term CPI or a normal inflation, your food inflation, everything around say 5%, you will be at least trying to beat 9-10% as lifestyle inflation every year.
Right.
The cost of travel is increasing by that. Good schools increase their fees by that amount. club costs are increasing by that. So let's assume 5 crores a year. Keeping inflation apart, let's take 5 years. Let's take 6 years of planning for you. So this is your 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
30 crores.
Yes.
This is your 6-year lifestyle cost.
Yes.
So if I put this in a pool of capital and give it to you and say, look, you are safe and secured. Nothing can change your lifestyle for the next 6 years.
Okay.
Does that make you comfortable?
It does, yes.
It
Yes.
gives you
I already feel better about
feel better because come what may, markets go up and down, doesn't matter.
Yeah. So
What
this
if I-
is like, if I can interrupt you, this
Yeah.
is like the emergency fund that every regular person has.
For you, it's not an emergency, it's lifestyle.
Right. It's not just if I lose my job. It's I want all my all the trimmings of my lifestyle to be.
Absolutely. So it's lifestyle, luxury, costing that we're looking for. This is almost like we call it the personal risk pool.
Personal risk pool.
Personal risk pool. Now, personal
Okay.
risk is not about emergency.
Right.
It's about whatever your personal life you're leading. If it's at risk at any point of time, then we have a worry. So to counter that, we put 6 years of your expenditure. Some families put 10 years of their expenditure, but that depends on the amount of money they have. They can set aside that. Now this, I'll put in a bank FD. How do you feel about it?
Just my regular bank FD.
Why not?
Okay. All right.
Debt funds are also taxed the same way,
Yeah.
right? But actually, what I mean to say is safe things, low returns,
Okay.
highly liquid.
Okay.
So tomorrow, if there is a black swan event like a pandemic and all your factories get closed, suddenly your industries are also closed, but you still have to maintain life, which is there, access to you, right? Gold can also be put in this category, but then if there is some issue in the economy and you can't even sell gold, what will happen? You need some financial assets, you can quickly recover your money. One pool is done, pool closed.
Yeah.
You can't touch this now, right? Even if you try to touch it, I will not allow you to touch it.
Okay.
Now it's written in literally stone.
Okay.
Now, let's take, so you're left with how much? 70 rupees? 70
Yes,
crores?
70
right?
crores.
Out of that, tell me how many notes can I just throw it away right now? I know it's hard, but what if I tell you this 100 can be, this 10 crores can become 100 crores as well, or I can just tear it?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with 10. 10
Right?
crores, yeah.
20?
No, 10.
10? 50?
No.
10 is fine.
Yes.
Right? So this is that note, it's actually the smallest one of the lot, right? You can just do away with it, assuming you shut your mind and say, this I can just let it be, right?
Yes.
Let it be.
I'm willing to lose that.
Lose
10.
that completely.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So this is something which we call the aspirational capital. That you're putting that 10 rupees and assuming that 10 can become 10x in the next 15 years or 20 years. So that you are creating wealth. So there's a difference between wealth management and wealth creation.
Got it.
After you create wealth, you manage the wealth. Right? And hence preservation becomes an important part of wealth management.
Got it.
But you now put that 10 rupees in a different pool, very far away from your safety, your personal risk pool.
Yeah.
It is diagrammatically opposite on the table from that. It's aspirational. We should target return 20-25% from here on an annual basis, year basis.
And that's possible to do?
Yes.
In a responsible way?
In a responsible way. But risk and return is the ballpark, right? For retail, same applies for ultra high net worth. But in that sense, they can set aside this 10 crores for that. A retail person may not be able to do that, right?
Got it. Yes.
So put a 10 rupees here. It's the aspiration pool. I can't take money out from that pool and put it here.
Because tomorrow, what can happen is, suppose that does really
You become
well.
greedy.
Yeah, I'll say, oh, if this did so well, let's put some
There
more
is
from
when
it.
our temperament management and behavioral management comes in.
Okay.
That no exuberance should be there in that. Yes, if I have already made 10x into that, right? And I want to now increase that pool has become 100, right? I can always pull money from there and put it in my personal risk pool. Right? I used up how many now? 40 rupees?
Yeah.
We left with 60 crores.
Yes.
Equivalent wealth.
Yes.
I hope it becomes 60 as soon as possible. What to do with this money, right?
Yeah.
What do this money for? This is the money you're using for running your life today, right? And it may not be running your life. Supposing it is 60 crores. Now, you don't need 60 crores every year to run your life.
I need 5.
You just need 5.
Yeah.
But you must be generating something to beat a certain point, right? Usually what they say is CPI inflation. But that's an inflation of which is the cost of fuel, food, basic services and all this kind of stuff. Ultra high net worths get affected by other costs. Travel, clubs, 5-star hotel cost, business class, first class seats costing you and all this kind of stuff. Schools, high-end private schools, colleges in US, they are
the best hotels, the best restaurants.
Everything. It's all going up, as we speak. So you need to make sure that you're trying to beat that lifestyle inflation. Now, what is that lifestyle inflation? Let's assume today 10% off the cuff. Right?
Okay.
What is the long-term expectation of equity returns in the country?
Say 12%, 14%.
12? Let's take 12.
Yeah.
Let's take We are very conservative.
Yeah,
should
12
play
is good.
conservative.
12 is good.
So 12%, actually, last 20, 30 years, everybody has given more than 12%. An index fund has given.
Yeah.
If my memory serves me right, like 10-year returns from a mid-cap index is 18% CAGR, right? Well, let's take
But I feel comfortable with 12.
12, right? Large cap safe companies, right? Index funds, simple. So if I put, this is 60, if I put half of it is in equity,
Okay.
right? What will I generate? 12%, right? Half of it in this pool, I put in equity.
Okay.
And half of it I put in fixed income, which is say generating me 8% hypothetically. And this middle pool is trying to beat lifestyle inflation. What does it become? It becomes my lifestyle pool.
Okay.
Personal risk pool, aspirational pool or the wealth creation pool,
Okay.
and the lifestyle pool, which is actually beating the lifestyle inflation at all points of time.
Okay.
And because my target was 10%, I put in half of the money at 12%, half the money at 8%. Lo and behold, average is very easy. It's 10%, right? Now there are 3 different pools you are running. All ultra high net worths will actually knowingly or unknowingly work on this. There are papers written around it. There may be one more pool, which is your, supposing there's a family wedding in the next 2 years. It's a known expense. It's not your annual expense.
Got it.
So they'll may take 10 rupees from here and say, this is my very short term known expenditure, which is very large. They may have an expense pool, which is short term. Ultimately, this is not asset allocation. It's need-based allocation they've done. Because usually asset allocation is for retail people. If you have 20 years, if you have 10 years, if you have 5 years, this is a debt equity ratio that you need to maintain. Here, there are need pools being created. And then risk profiles being plonked on them. Personal risk pool, safe, highly liquid, low returns, perfectly fine. But closed. You know, that thing is closed, you can't take out money. Aspiration pool, I can do away with it, doesn't matter, but I'm assuming it will grow at least 5x, 10x in the next 10, 15, 20 years. So that's my wealth creation tool. This is making me jump from one wealth strata to another wealth strata.
Got it.
Right? But the majority
of
the
my moonshot.
Yes, you can call it moonshot. Mars shot will be the next one because you hit enough moons and unicorns in India. And the second pool, the middle pool is your largest pool where you're trying to beat lifestyle inflation. Now, you might say my lifestyle inflation is 12%. Then you may need a very different kind of equity.
So you need to up the risk and risk return profile of the
equity. Either you increase equity and decrease debt, or increase the risk profile of equity. Get some mid caps in your space. But if you're happy with 12%, it's fine, not an issue. This is how the allocation will be done, and this will be run like 3 different portfolios.
And you as the advisor would have advisory oversight on all these portfolios.
And this will be actually documented for most families in an investment policy document. What are the do's and don'ts for that pool? Do's and don'ts for this pool. So there'll be a full-fledged note on this. Where will you invest in this pool? Where will you invest in that pool?
Okay, great. So now just boiling it down to the what instrument or product will be used. So let's take the example of equity. Now, many of us are invested in mutual funds in the retail space. So does a UHNI also just have mutual funds, or do they have something special?
Very interesting point. So new product was sold to them as, look, you are an HNI, we'll give you an exclusive product. But ultimately, when you're allocating money, let's say in equity, it should be the best product which suits the portfolio, right? At the lowest cost and the highest efficiency, and which has done performance-wise better as well.
So it could be an ETF, it could be a direct equity
fund,
portfolio.
it could be a direct equity portfolio, it could be a PMS, or it could be an AIF. So mutual funds, maybe as you get higher on, you become a mass affluent or an HNI, you can explore PMSs as well. But always realize that mutual fund is the most regulated, most clean, most transparent product. And for retail, it's meant for retail. But the reason this thing has grown, the mutual fund industry is grown not only from retail. Ultra high net worths also have large pools of capital lying there. Because index fund is only on mutual funds, right?
So related to this, I have a question of, in your experience, because you've been in this industry for a long time, you've dealt with different types of clients. What are some of the secrets about high net worth or ultra high net worth investors that the rest of us don't know?
That'll require a lot of fees.
So not the investing secrets, but what is it about money that sets them apart from others, if there is anything at all?
So yes and no. No means even a billionaire and a person who has 100 rupees in his portfolio has the same love for money. Let me call it this way. Respect is different. At retail, they are surviving on that money. A billionaire does not need that money to survive. Right? So the trick is, for these ultra high net worths, how much is that money that gives me a generational comfort and how much is the money I can take risk with.
Okay.
That's the first secret that they start working out. And, we've realized, so we've now advised over 120 families as we speak today in the last 10 years, approximately almost 50,000 crores of financial assets of these families. Inherently, families don't know how much they need for a good lifestyle for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 or even a generation, right? And how much can they take risk with? So for retail people, that 100 rupees or that 1,000 rupees may be a bit different because they're surviving on that stuff.
Yeah.
So the biggest secret these ultra high net worths have, they compartmentalize. Usually when we coach them, and you'll be surprised, when we talk to first time to a client and maybe the client signs up, ultimately it might be in a year's time.
Yeah.
So you're meeting the client multiple times. They're also trying to figure out, and sometimes client's behavior comes in the middle, right? There's ego, right? I know everything. Somebody's telling me something I've done wrong, right?
Yeah.
Things play out in that path. But once they realize, yes, the other person is making sense, and then you slowly coach them, then they get to see this compartmentalization is required for them as well.
That's interesting because, just talking about my experience a little bit, dealing with clients on the retail side, one of the big challenges that we face is there are times when there are multiple decision makers and you don't often quite know exactly who the decision maker is. And this is just when you're dealing with one person, a couple, a nuclear family. So I can imagine that when you're talking about family offices, the dynamics must be extremely difficult to decipher.
Yeah.
So, let's say my family has a lot of money. We've come to you saying we need help now. Does everyone get together in a room? Is there a couple of people who take charge? How does it work? What do you prefer?
So usually there is a catalyst, right? Who has taken a decision that we need a family office or we need to explore an advisor coming. It can be anybody in the family. Usually, and with due respect to Indian culture, maybe the younger people, the kids and all, they generally don't take the initiative,
Right.
because Indians are built very to respect the elders and not to disagree with them and all that stuff. And it's a usual trait that we have, and nothing wrong about it.
Yeah.
So usually it's a combined exercise where the family has sat down and realized they are missing out on some things, or maybe there's an external trigger that some friend of theirs has worked with an advisor or worked with us and all that stuff. And they are the catalyst which says, look, why don't you explore that space?
Right.
By itself, we have not seen very few families who wake up one day and say, I think we need an advisor. There has to be a trigger or a catalyst in space. Internally, we've never seen all the family members in Unism saying, yes, we need an advisor. Because inside family offices, like you rightly mentioned, the family dynamics are also very different. If you're in a third or a fourth generation family, there are maybe 20 family members who are also owners of the business that the family is running. They may be shareholders. Some are also in management roles. Some are not in the management roles. They may be working outside the company, but they're still shareholders. So everybody's got a different thought process. And everybody got their own linkages in the wealth industry, their likes, dislikes. Some people like some bankers and also usually it's not a very unified approach that we needed.
Yeah.
There is one trigger, and if the karta of the family, which is the main patriarch or matriarch, whoever is leading the discussion or the thought process of the family, once they decide, usually then it falls down on generations and everybody comes in loop. But even after everybody agrees to that, there are still pockets of conflict you have to manage. So if you actually look for, if you meet a lot of these people who do family constitutions, who do family business advisory.
Sorry, what is a family constitution?
So family constitution is basically, it's a non-legal document,
Okay.
Which is kind of a letter of wishes, which the promoter of the family writes about how the family should stay together, what are the do's and don'ts the families may have. I mean, it can be as detailed as whenever a young family member comes into the business, they'll actually get this brand of a car or this category of a car. It can go to as detail. How do you treat your employees? What is the gift taking and gift giving?
Like a family manifesto.
It's almost like the constitution of the family. Do's and don'ts, laws.
This is what you live by.
everything.
These are the rules of.
Correct.
If you want to be
It's
in this
also
family.
one way of inculcating values in the next generation. It also has the history of the family. The history has been built from this. We are very clear about making sure that we take care of our employees.
Right.
Our family members should not speak to media. I mean, it can be plethora. It can be a 10-page document
Okay.
to some of these large families who have like this thick constitutions, which are actually, it's put in display panels in their offices and all that kind of stuff.
And everyone has to be familiar with all the different do's and
I'm sure nobody remembers all of it, but it's basically a guiding mechanism for the family.
What's the second secret about HNI wealth building and how they think about money?
I think the second secret is the most important thing. I should have put it in the number one space actually, is they actually fully utilize their ecosystem. So when you are an ultra high net worth, you have a social ecosystem, you have a professional ecosystem, you have industrial ecosystem. They will use that ecosystem to the fullest. We talk about networking for professionals. Imagine 100x that. That's what ecosystems that they have.
Okay.
Because they have social circles which are in the same strata of the wealth pools. They have professional circles maybe in the same industry or other industries which they can reach out to. So I think that's when they get money or they have access to that capital through a family office, they start using that ecosystem quite a lot. I mean, I have seen families wherein now startup investing has become now even mass affluent retail. You can just cut out a 1 lakh, 5 lakh check to become an investor in startups. But these family offices, when they have to do a startup, they will not just believe the manager or the investment banker who's taking them out, right? They'll actually use their whole ecosystem. So actually, they may have unpaid advisors which are available to them, which are not available to the retail class. So if you actually think of the richest US nationals as well, people who have been US or Europe who have been like billionaires, $100 billion, their ecosystems are so large and it's a two-way ecosystem. So when somebody needs help, they can reach out to their ecosystem and it's an accepted fact of, giving help to your ecosystem as well.
Okay.
That's the biggest secret. They're able to find out nuances about an investment which your investment banker and banker will never know about it.
And your friend will definitely not know about it.
Definitely not know about it. I can tell you some individuals will never tell you about it as well. The third one is a bit funny. Actually, as you start getting more wealthier and wealthier, you start becoming less trusting.
Less trusting of other people.
Of other people as well. Especially people who are trying to selling you something. Right? Retail or even professionals, the professionals are so involved in their jobs and all this kind of stuff. They may be working with a wealth advisor or a wealth manager, relationship manager for 10 years. And they have no clue what is happening. Because the more they are working, they are creating more wealth, right? And it's an ongoing process. For family business owners, see, imagine they are sitting right at the top of those companies. They have enough time to manage their wealth as well. Yes, that's not their main job, right? But then they start, once they have enough wealth under their kitty, they start doing corroborations as well. They will not trust you blindly. And that's one of the triggers which you asked a question, as well, that there are some triggers. What triggers prompts people to come to us is when they start distrusting their so-called wealth manager. Then is when the trigger starts to get in a advisor. So funnily, people will think that more money, that they're more, complacent and all this kind of stuff. Very few.
So Munish, what are some of the mistakes that ultra high net worth individuals make? And also what can we learn from those mistakes?
Good point. Actually, they're still learning. So it's work in progress for them as well. But I think some of the mistakes where we have seen in the last 10 years, managing ultra high net worth money is, one, and very importantly, the importance of experts in their lives. Everybody has a retained lawyer. Everybody has a retained family doctor. They have a retained chartered accountant. But they never had a retained coach or a advisor for managing their wealth. I think, but they assumed everything is free. Right? That's the biggest mistake they make. At least, I've been now 29 years in the industry. The biggest fallacy was that I'm getting free advice, right? But there's nothing free in this world. Every advice, sorted or not sorted, free or coming from your friend or coming from anybody, has a nuance to it. So realize what is the nuance and try to get a external person to vet that. There's a reason why independent directors are sitting on their boards and SEBI makes it compulsory. So that the person has no linkages for them, and that's the reason why they can speak their mind out. I think that's what they have learned, that we need an independent advisor. And this is actually one family in Delhi which told me that, Munish, look, whatever you need me to do in my family office structure, please tell me, from data storage, data accumulation, risk mitigation, because you're almost like an independent director on my family office board. Right? That's the key learning. Even retail people can see. Seek out those, those pockets which can give you clear advice, which is clear, backed up by that, and then stick with those. Either it can be individuals and maybe going forward, it may be artificial intelligence of sorts. But make sure that you realize what you are seeking out to, and don't assume that advice given to you is actually free to you. Nothing is free. That's, I think, one of the biggest mistakes some of them are still making, to be very honest.
Okay, thank you for all the information you've given us. It's been great, and I hope a lot of people will take information from this and use it in their own portfolio.
Thank you so much for having me here, and I think very insightful discussions we've had. And as you said, what applies to ultra high net worth applies to retail as well. Unless you start thinking like an ultra high net worth, you won't become one.
Yeah.
So better start thinking like that.
Great. Thank you for watching this episode of Temperament. Let us know in the comments what you learned about HNI investing through this video. One key takeaway from this conversation is that no matter your wealth level, working with a qualified financial advisor will always help, because you'll get a financial plan that's suited to your own risk appetite and financial goals, which is not biased by any other consideration. And we'll see you in the next episode.